Perfectly legal. It is a curious phrase, perfectly legal. It rolls off the tongue with the self-satisfied smoothness of something settled, sealed, and no longer in need of scrutiny. It is often said with a shrug or a smirk, as if to say, you may not like it, you may not think it's fair, but it's allowed. As if permission were the highest court and lawfulness the final word. But what does perfectly legal actually mean? At first glance, it appears to be a clarification, something designed to soothe suspicion or halt objection. It affirms that a particular action falls within the boundaries of the law, that it is permitted by the statutes, that no jail cell, citation, or judge awaits. But there is a deeper tone buried inside it, a moral dodge, a sleight of hand. Because perfectly legal does not mean good. It does not mean fair. It does not mean ethical, admirable, wise, or decent. It only means this: not currently punishable by the governing system in power. That's all, and that's not much. The law is not a mirror of justice. To say that something is perfectly legal is not to say that it is just. The law, though ideally derived from principles of justice, is not identical to it. The law is a human creation, drafted, debated, edited, voted on, interpreted, misinterpreted, enforced, or ignored, according to the wills, biases, incentives, and limitations of fallible people. What is legal today may be illegal tomorrow. What is punishable in one nation may be profitable in another. It was once legal to own another human being. It was once legal to beat a child with a stick so long as it wasn't thicker than your thumb. It was once illegal to let women vote, illegal to read if you were a slave, illegal to marry across color lines, illegal to love the wrong person, legal to dump poison into a river, legal to swindle pensioners with financial tricks, legal to profit from prisons, legal to steal land, write over its history, and then draw up the paperwork to prove it was yours all along. So when someone says it's perfectly legal, they may as well be saying, I am protected by the current arrangement of power, or there's nothing you can do about it, or even, you might feel it's wrong, but I have paperwork on my side. Second, perfectly legal as a shield. The phrase is often used as a shield, as if it were an answer to a deeper question, but more often than not, it is a substitute for one. It halts the conversation before it can mature, before it can travel into the territory of values, consequences, and conscience. Imagine someone dumps toxic waste near a low-income neighborhood. When challenged, they reply, "What I did was perfectly legal." The implication is no further discussion necessary. But the real question remains unanswered. Should it be legal, or more precisely, is it right? The law is only ever as noble as those who shape it, and those who shape it are often those who stand to benefit from what it allows. So to rest one's entire ethical position on legality is to put moral philosophy in the hands of lobbyists, loopholes, and legislative convenience. The comfort of legalism. Perfectly legal offers psychological comfort. It allows someone to sleep well after having done something questionable, because technically it passed the test. No charges, no court dates, no headlines, but deep down, the human conscience does not settle so easily. It does not ask, was it legal? It asks, was it right? And there is often a silent, unsettling space between those two. There is a reason why so many whistleblowers, activists, and moral outliers are called to speak out against what is legal, because legality is not the summit of moral judgment. It is often the floor. People who cling to perfectly legal are often looking for cover, a way to continue profiting, surviving, or avoiding conflict without having to confront the moral implications of their behavior. The phrase becomes a fortress, not of truth, but of technicality. Fourth, perfect legality and implicit violence. Some of the most brutal systems in history were perfectly legal. Segregation was legal. Internment camps were legal. Colonization was legal. Genocide was made legal by the very governments that committed it. There is no limit to what can be justified once law is divorced from empathy, divorced from memory, divorced from the felt impact of the people beneath it. And that is the horror of perfect legality. Its perfection lies not in moral perfection, but in completeness. A system can be perfectly airtight and still perfectly inhumane. What's perfect is the coverage, the extent to which a system covers its tracks, protects its agents, and forecloses dissent. So the phrase should ring with danger, not pride. The slippery language of power. Perfectly legal is not a neutral phrase. It carries the weight of politics, profit, and power. It is a phrase used by corporations when caught polluting, by banks when foreclosing, by developers when displacing families, by bureaucrats when silencing questions, by governments when killing by drone. It is not always spoken aloud. Sometimes it is built into forms, contracts, disclaimers, and disclosures. We regret the inconvenience, but our actions were consistent with policy and law. Translation: we are untouchable, and you are unlucky. This is the speech of systems, not people. It is the language of depersonalization. It says, there is no one responsible, only protocol, only precedent, only law. But when law is made without listening, without humility, without the real voices of those affected, then the phrase perfectly legal becomes a muzzle over the mouth of justice. Sixth, beyond the phrase. There are those who never ask whether something is legal. They ask whether it is right. They live by an internal code. Call it conscience, call it soul, call it truth, that does not submit itself to the shifting statutes of man. These people are often difficult, disruptive, inconvenient. They are not easy to manage because they do not wait for permission to do what must be done, nor do they hide behind legality when doing what is wrong. These people do not comfort themselves with the phrase perfectly legal. They say instead, is this loving? Is this just? Is this necessary? Is this kind? What will this do to the people I do not see? What will this do to the earth, to the water, to the children not yet born? In this way, they live by a deeper law, one not codified, not notarized, not officially sanctioned, and because of that, it cannot be repealed, corrupted, or bought. 7. The true test. The phrase perfectly legal will always be available to those who wish to defend the indefensible, and yet there will always be another test, quieter, harder, and far more enduring. That test asks, what harm did this cause? What dignity was lost? Who paid the price for this decision? And who was able to pretend they didn't know? No court can rule on these questions. No law book can absolve them. They are not questions of legality. They are questions of legacy. Beatty. Conclusion. So the next time the phrase perfectly legal is heard, pause. Look more closely. Ask what that legality is shielding and who it is failing to protect. Ask whether the law in question was shaped by the many or by the few. Ask whether it has teeth for the powerless and blind spots for the powerful. Because behind every perfectly legal act there is a real consequence, a real face, a real story, and often a real silence.